The evolution of warehouse flexibility. Well, joining us today to speak about that, Hisham Khaki, president of HapiGig. Hisham, it's good to see you. Welcome.
Thank you, Russell.
Hisham, I think when we look at what's going on in the warehouse, there's a question about variability. So my question to you is this: are you seeing more and more of that, and is it a problem in the warehouse environment? What do you say?
There is so much variability in warehousing today. I think if you go back 10 to 15 years ago, variability wasn't that much of an issue. You got your orders, you knew those orders had to go out 2 days, 2 or 3 days ahead of you. You picked what you needed to pick, you loaded what you needed to load, got the job done. Nowadays, you're literally picking orders that are going to be delivered the very next day. One day your volume's 100,000 units, next day your volume drops down to 75,000, next day 125,000. So that variability over the past decade has become more and more of an issue within the warehousing industry.
When you look at the issues or the problems or the challenges perhaps that cascade because of that variability, what might they be?
Well, the big issue is warehouse labor, right? You have a completely static workforce. So you've got a staff of, let's say, 75 warehouse workers, and they're trying to take care of that volume that's going up and down, up and down. That creates a nightmare for many warehouses out there.
Because you either have too many people or not enough people, would that be fair to say?
Exactly. Too many people, then you've got some people who you're telling to clean the warehouse because you've got too much labor. You're sending people home. Then all of a sudden the following week, you've got so few people that you're working your team 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and then that vicious cycle of turnover starts happening because people are being overworked.
Let's talk more specifically about the workforce, and let's talk about the changes that you have seen in that entity, in that grouping over the past few years. What would you say they are?
Well, obviously that little thing we had, COVID, over the past couple of years really magnified, I think, where the labor market was already going, which is towards flexibility, right? And now I think there are so many studies out there that are showing after pay, the number 2 thing that warehouse workers want is flexibility now. So, time to take off with their family, ability to work more hours when needed, just not the exact same 40 hours a week, 5 days, 40 hours a week type schedule.
We are clearly seeing a difference in the mindset of that workforce that you're talking about now. From, say, the boomer generation or whatever, there seems to be a very different emphasis on what they want in terms of hours worked, et cetera. Is that right?
It is. But one interesting thing we're also seeing is that most people want something consistent, yet they want additional flexibility on the side to be able to either earn more or take some time off. But they still want, what we're finding is that they still want something consistent that they can support their livelihoods with.
Let's talk about then flex work penetrating, if you will, the warehousing industry. So walk us through there. What are you seeing there?
So a lot has been going on with flexibility in warehousing over the past couple of years. We're finding there's 2 different sides of it. You've got flexible gig workers that can come in and do very simple type work, hand unloading, hand loading, just non-equipment work. Finding that's a different caliber of associate. But then you've still got some people that want to come in and do flex work, but they do the skilled work, handling forklifts, the cherry pickers, the clamp trucks, the reach trucks, and that just takes a different caliber of associate.
Talk about flex work as we enter into peak season, in certain industries, et cetera. The employment factor going up, the need for more workers, and then of course perhaps fewer workers needed in the off-peak seasons. Talk about that and how that is affecting warehousing.
So the good thing with peaks is that a lot of us, when we think about peak, we think about Q3, Q4, but the reality of it is different companies have different peaks. We have a lot of customers that peak Q1 and Q2 when warehouses are able to leverage their peaks or their valleys in order to get some flex workers, we see a big benefit there.
Hisham, are you seeing something like multiple peaks throughout the year with certain companies, certain
Some
industries?
do, yes. I mean, some have a peak every month.
Uh-huh.
Some have a peak every week. Every week Friday's their peak, and it's a big variance from Monday through Thursday.
And how is that impacting the employment that's necessary to meet those challenges?
We've got to find a better way to do it, right? In the past, the way that we deal with it is leveraging overtime. You staff in the middle, and when that peak comes, you just work people as much as you can, 60, 70 hours a week in order to handle that volume. And there's just got to be a better way to do it.
Well, I just wonder if HapiGig doesn't have a better way to do things. So for anyone who's unfamiliar with the company, give us an idea. What is HapiGig all about? What does it do? How are you, in your estimation, optimizing or enhancing the operations of the folks you work with? What would you say?
Thank you, Russell. So we bring flexibility to warehouses. We've got a couple different platforms to do this. One is external gig work. So when you do have those peaks at your warehouse, or you've got seasonality and you just don't have enough employees in your facility, rather than working on those 60 to 70 hour weeks, you can bring in external, highly vetted warehouse workers into your building to handle equipment. The second platform we have that really helps with flexibility is giving your full-time staff the flexibility that they crave so much. So rather than me calling out sick or using PTO just to take 4 hours off tomorrow, I can post that shift with a platform, someone else in the facility grabs it, everybody's happy, no production's lost, employee hasn't gotten any points, hasn't used PTO, and you're good to go. So we're really looking at modernizing warehouse labor.
And is this a product agnostic, I would imagine? Doesn't matter what you're dealing with, doesn't matter if these are e-commerce orders that are being fulfilled. Anything that goes on in the warehouse, is that something that you are working with?
Yeah, anything within the four walls. We specialize, our external gig workers are probably 95% are equipment operators. We really specialize in the fact that we find highly qualified equipment operators that can come in. And that separates us from other companies.
Well, that's an absolutely interesting, I must say, drill down into what's going on in the labor force in the warehouse. You found time to speak with us here today, Hisham. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Russell.
That's Hisham Khaki with HapiGig speaking with us today about the evolution of the warehouse workforce, the flexibility taking place perhaps in your warehouse. Thanks for watching.